Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Neil Murray and Tam Cowan here with us on this Tuesday. Delighted to have your company. Thank you very much to each and every one of you for hitting that subscribe button in your thousands and of course consuming so many of our videos and the unique video content on a regular basis. Interviews, one-to-ones, managers, you name it, it's all on the YouTube channel, and there's a few things well worthy of your consideration if you get a chance to have a look at them. We've got a competition as ever every week all the way through to the end of the season, and this one is, well, it's a narrow market. If you're a goalkeeper you might like it. If you were a fan of this player you might like to get your hands on this hoodie.
PLZ Soccer has another fantastic competition for you to enter. For your chances to win this Legia Warsaw Arthur Boric hoodie and the Legia Warsaw pendant, all you have to do is answer this simple question. Which year did Arthur Boric sign for Celtic? Post your answer in the comment section below, and to double your chances of winning, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that one. It's basically our reporters going all across the Champions League and Europa League just buying stuff, Ruffy, so we can give it away as a freebie.
Yeah,
you know?
And if they're like you, what I witnessed in the Real Madrid souvenir shop, they'll be buying it up.
Well, to be fair, somebody got a Luka Modric top and they were absolutely delighted about it. It doesn't get any better than that, Neil. I mean, I don't know about you. Enter the competition, you win a Luka Modric top, Champions League emblem on the side, not bad going.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
that's
and he's
a rare one.
And did you play a lot of passes with the outside of your boot? Because I don't think I've seen him play. I don't think I've seen him play a pass with his instep.
Yeah, no, he's a special talent, special player, and the longevity of his career as well, something that's quite remarkable.
Yeah, who was your favourite player? If you were in the midfield, who would have been somebody that you idolised when you were growing up?
I think when I was young, Michel Platini. So it was like the France 82, 84, 86 kind of era.
Tigana, Gires, Rocheteau.
Yeah, but Platini was the star, if you like. So he was the one that was impressive as a youngster. Another one growing up was Boniek, as the right winger for Poland. And
so you're a big Juventus fan then?
Yeah, quite like Juventus.
Yeah, absolutely. Boniek. Did you play against him, Ruffy? No, one of the few.
One of the few, no.
Yeah, absolutely. I was giving you the perfect chance to be your usual arrogant so-and-so when it comes to all those big games that you played in.
That guy,
No, he was a fabulous player.
A couple of the World Cups that he was talking about, the guys.
Platini.
82, 86.
Absolutely.
Somebody sent me a wee link the other night to just a wee 3-minute clip just called The Very Best of Glenn Hoddle. That was a player, you forget how good he was. Every goal, whether it was a wee chip against Watford, remember that one from the edge of the box, or that one that he caught beautifully in the volley in mid-air, I think might have been against Liverpool for the edge of the box.
Yes.
Every goal was just amazing.
It's a belter, isn't it? Yeah. There are a few players like that if you look at their collection of goals and you buy it for a £5 in the old bargain shop, Ruffy, you feel as if you've got a true bargain. The best one I ever bought was Matt Letizier's. I've never seen a rotten goal from Matt Letizier. Have you, Neil?
No, the quality of Matt Letizier again. And they were all outside the box. Volleys, half volleys. Yeah, incredible.
Fantastic. In terms of what he could do with a ball, we had him on the telly years ago. Now, because he was deemed a wee bit, probably, we would say with Matt Letizier, probably, if you're looking for a Scottish player, that he might have reminded you a wee bit of the guy that we always talk about in this show, Andy Ritchie, you know.
Yeah, very much so.
He could mesmerise, he could do stuff for the ball, nobody else could, but he wasn't known for running back for tackles or anything, you know. So when we introduced him onto the show, you just gave me a wee flashback to that there, Peter. We introduced him onto the show in front of the studio audience, and we got a big, must have spent a bit of money, with a big chaise lounge kind of thing. One of the things that the Roman emperors lay on and getting carried about while they're eating grapes and all that, you know. So we brought him out in that, saying that he had demanded it, he didn't want to walk in and all that, you know. But then, in terms of what he could do with a ball, I still wish I could get the clip of this. We gave him a normal regulation size 5 ball, and he's also a very good golfer. So we brought him out, and it wasn't even his own club. I know that might make a difference to these guys. We brought him out a golf club and a golf ball, and he played keepy uppy with his left foot with the ball, while playing keepy uppy with his right hand with the club and the golf ball. And we'd eventually stop it. He showed no sign of stopping, and we'd say, right, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough. It was absolutely amazing. What a trick.
That takes some going, doesn't it, Ruffy?
Well, the golf one takes some doing to concentrate and looking at the ball and the club at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Great skill.
What do you mean your keepy uppy record? 3 Tennent's Lager Lovelies.
No, I didn't remember. You got me on the show.
Aye.
You got me on the show, and I'm sitting there and he's firing questions at me, and I'm going, because I'd watched the show before, and he usually does something out of the left field. He said, and I'm sitting there and I seen an orange lying at the side of his seat.
All right.
Just an orange there, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I saw him leaning down. You here, catch this through the orange.
You know why that was? I'll tell you why that was. No, it was to test his reflexes. And that week, something had come out that John Burridge, the old Thames goalie, it'd been in the paper that he used to practice in the living room with his wife. He'd bring out a fruit bowl, and he would sit on the couch, and his wife would sit down in front of the fire and throw fruit at him, just to, So that's the reason we would have done that.
Thank God it was fruit there. I was wondering where he was going with that gag. I thought we were off within the first 5 minutes. Anyway, the quiz question this week is a good one, because obviously Dunfermline have got a huge game tonight, and great that they've managed to sell it out. Which year did Dunfermline last win a major domestic honour? Do you want to have a wee go at that, Tom?
Well, Jim Leishman actually told me the answer, but he had his mic away down there, so I couldn't hear it. Wee private joke. Yeah. But can I have a go?
Well, if he told you, there's no point.
No, I was only kidding you on. I know. Mate,
so what are you going for? You mentioned earlier.
Somewhere in the 60s.
Yeah, so 63. You said 63. What about you?
What, Jim Leishman won a trophy?
No, Dunfermline.
No, just Dunfermline.
Yeah. Dunfermline.
Have you met Tam?
They did well in the 60s. I'll go 66.
66.
Right, I'm going 61.
61, okay, because you're thinking Jock Stein, aren't you?
I'm thinking, I'm piecing it together.
Okay then.
It's a great team they had then.
Yep, they had some good players in their team all across that decade.
You get it then,
at the end of the programme.
Right.
You think you'd never been here before. On this day, Ruffy, on this very day, here's your chance.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, what happened? You're an absolute disaster.
What is this, March?
Yeah, you've only been on the show 10 years.
2021.
2021, March.
Sitting here with masks on.
Somebody become a manager or something.
Right, do you want me to tell you?
A manager.
Have a wee look.
Today marks exactly 2 years since Rangers won their 55th Scottish top flight title and prevented Celtic from completing a record-breaking 10 league titles in a row. Let's take a look back on this historic Rangers season. Due to the ongoing fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, the season began behind closed doors with no fans permitted in grounds. Rangers won their opening fixture 1-0 away at Aberdeen and went on to defeat Celtic 2-0 at Celtic Park in October, with thanks to a Connor Goldson double. That victory was one of 3 victories over their arch-rivals, remaining unbeaten in Old Firm derbies all season. Rangers stretched themselves well out in front at the top of the table for the majority of the season, officially clinching the title on the 7th of March 2021 after Celtic drew 0-0 away to Dundee United. Stephen Gerrard's side finished the season in style by completing an undefeated league season, including a 100% home record, eclipsing a 100 points tally and equalling the record for clean sheets with a whopping 26, conceding just 13 goals in the process. They defeated Celtic 4-1 at Ibrox in the final derby match of the season before disposing of Aberdeen 4-0 on Trophy Day. Stephen Gerrard guided Rangers to a historic 55th league title that year with Michael Beale by his side. Rangers fans, do you think the Master's apprentice will be able to clinch 56 in his time at Ibrox?
Yeah, do you remember that, Ruffy?
Yeah, I do.
It's hard to believe it's 2 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember just the celebrations there when I saw that. Like every good club, you like to celebrate if you win something, and I think it went on for days and days.
The alarming thing there for me, Neil nearly said at the same time, was when you see Morelos then, it must have been an alarming thing for any Rangers fans tuned in today, because, as Neil rightly said, he looked about 2 stone lighter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they eventually won the league by 25 points. That season. It was a whole collection of things, but even in that stadium at the time, empty stadiums right, left and centre, but he still had a job to do, and they set about it in the right manner and achieved it.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they played well throughout the season. They were very consistent, like everything else, and sometimes you win a league title. Other teams implode, and I think Celtic went through a bad spell, and eventually it cost Lennon his job, and it spurred Rangers on to win the title that year. Yeah,
and you just mentioned there, Ruffy, do you want to know the final game when Rangers won 4-1? Do you want to know the two sides? Because that's what you were just asking about there. McGregor, Tavernier, Simpson, Goldson, Barisic, Davis, Aribo, Kamara, Kent, Morelos and Roof.
Most of them are still
not
there.
too dissimilar to the team that's there now. Celtic side was Bain, Taylor, John Joe Kenny, Ayer, Welsh, Brown, Turnbull, Elyounoussi, McGregor, Forrest and Edward. Wow.
Totally different.
Totally different, isn't it? I mean, it's a complete
transfer.
And a 20
defensively, but the rest are very good.
Yeah, and a 25-point switch again, because Neil, you would have known on many an occasions where it's like, sometimes people say, oh, Rangers or Celtic are 5 years ahead, it'll take them 5 years to turn it around. Took Martin O'Neill, I think, 3 games, and then boom, 6-2 in an Old Firm game, and Dick Advocaat's side were reeling.
Yeah, and similarly, Ange Postecoglou has made a massive impact in a short space of time as well. Generally speaking, if you look at it in Scottish terms, Rangers and Celtic have got the biggest budgets, the best teams. If they take care of all the other teams round about them, it's a slugfest between both clubs.
Yeah.
So in that regard, the gap shouldn't really be that big between the two of them. At the moment, Celtic's got, as we said earlier, they've got a great work ethic, they've got a real team spirit. Everyone's trying to fight to get into the team and make a difference. And that's what Rangers need to do to bring, as we say, 3 or 4 big impact players, change the team about, freshen it up a little bit, because it has been the same for a few years, and have a good work ethic and hopefully try and catch Celtic next year.
Yeah, listen, other news that we're going to talk about today, that's on this day, which is hard to believe, 2 years have now passed, Tam, but you've had a rough patch, but Stuart Kettlewell is Manager of the Month.
Yeah, well deserved. I've read a few texts today from some pals that support Celtic saying Big Ange was robbed and all that. I mean, he's barely put a foot wrong, but a manager, look at that word, manage, and Stuart Kettlewell has had to manage. He came in when, our jaws were in the ground. We were absolutely, we were looking like we couldn't buy a result, and it was getting really, really bleak. And as I said in the preview programme, we were not starting to think, this might be the year we get relegated. But he's come in, he's given the players the proverbial boot up the backside. He's tinkered with the formation a wee bit, and the personnel, and 3 wins and a draw. And as I say, when you get the first double of wins, Hearts and St Mirren at Fir Park, we hadn't won at home since August. It was a hell of a long time, So yeah, he's been motoring along, and I'll be honest with you, I just don't think we're going to be in any bother.
I was just about to say, you think that 10-point gap now you're safe?
It's amazing what it does for your confidence. Just get a few points on the board at long last, and even when you look at us, we're not the worst team in that league, or even in the bottom 3, I would say. So yeah, very happy the way it's ticking along, and I was going to ask you boys. I mean, some folk will maybe claim this is still the bounce, but that's 4 games now. How long is the bounce?
The bounce is 4 games.
Well, that was my question. I was going to ask you a question which you've pretty much answered.
Right.
Is what difference has Kettlewell made compared to Hamill? So is it managing the players, getting more from the players, a leader of men, or is it more technical or tactical that he's made a difference?
I think it's the Horseshoe Bar in Glasgow. One of my moles, good old Raymond, who's the MC at the famous karaoke in the Horseshoe Bar, he texted me when I was en route to a doing Sunday, and he said, the Motherwell boys are in. So that team bonding, you'll remember it back in your day. In fact, I think we were maybe talking about it last week in the show when you were at Rangers. It was certainly a great thing at Rangers, advocate it back in the day, going out for the day and getting all the guys together. So on Sunday there, the Motherwell first team was taking the karaoke at the famous Horseshoe Bar in Drury Street, does it?
With the manager?
Well, I don't think so. And what's the great shame about that, if you're a newspaper man? You get a picture of Stuart Kettlewell and the players at the Horseshoe karaoke, and the headline, the singing Kettlewell.
Yeah.
It would have been joyous, it'd have been lovely, but no, I think you let the boys go themselves and enjoy it, without, because, well, you boys can tell me that, would the Motherwell players been able to enjoy it the same with the manager there? As a manager, one of the boys, or is the manager always kind of keeping an eye on you?
The manager's always keeping an eye.
Yeah,
He'd just say, go out, bond.
I don't remember going out for a drink with any manager in my career.
Right.
Any?
No, I don't remember going down the town and into, or even having a drink in their company, not off the top of my head.
See,
no.
not Walter.
No, he'd have a nice lunch in La Parmigiana.
And then he would go. He's got on with it.
That's it, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, managers like to keep their distance on it, but they do, I think, more than ever, when you see some of the teams that really win, they do like to kind of give them just that little bit of latitude to say, look, you are professionals, go out, enjoy yourself, and bond.
Well, I think ultimately, Raphael will agree, I'm sure, ultimately it's about the game on the Saturday and the game at the weekend, so if the manager does give you that little bit of leeway, you pay them back and you put a performance out in the weekend.
Yeah. I don't know how the Arsenal boys did it. See, when you hear the stories and you think to yourself, I mean, Tony Adams, Ray Parlour, these guys were all absolutely, they could go for it.
Well, even people, I never met him, but people talk about Paul McGrath when he was at Manchester United and Aston Villa, and it appears he was a better player when he was on the sauce, shall we say. But I suppose everyone's different. But I think ultimately, if you play hard, you've got to work hard at the weekend and make sure you get the result.
The thing,
Brian Robson was like that as well.
Yeah, the thing I did with Big Duncan Ferguson on Sunday night there up in Dundee.
Now
he's now gone.
Hold on a second, Ruffy, that's a tenner. I said he'd drop a name in before 15:15. I fired it.
I hope to get edited highlights on the BBC. But no, it was a great story. Well, he's full of great stories, and anything that you asked him, he answered right. It was an absolute dream. But there was one at him, and I think the whole crowd was astonished. They said that it was two nights before a game against Liverpool. He had gone out and he'd basically drank 5 bottles of red wine, right? He then went out kind of after, I think this was just in a restaurant or whatever, he went out, saw a lot of Everton fans who were kicking about, and as much as they were maybe shocked at him being bevied like that 2 days before they play their great rivals, there was still that adulation, so he was welcomed into their company as well, but by which time he'd also won the charms of a young lady who was there as well. So he get battered into the drink again, and was involved in a fracas. Used his fists again, not for the first time. Took the young lady back to the hotel, but just as they arrived at the hotel, police lifted him a night in the cells. So his parting shot to the girl was, the room's booked anyhow, away and enjoy it. Perfect gentleman, right? Spent the night in the cells, and then, you're right, perfect gentleman, the David Niven, if you like, of Scottish football. Because when he got out the cells in the morning, he went back to the hotel, gave the young lady a proper seeing to. she'd been waiting on him to come back.
Is this a story really?
Aye. And then that was it. He went away. He played the game the night after that and scored the first goal against Liverpool. And even before the word was a thing in football, provided an assist for the second. Beat Liverpool 2-0. And he went back out in the lash for 4 nights.
Wow.
That's the way to do it.
I remember he told us this story as well. So when he was at United, he wasn't in the squad.
Right.
He went out on the Friday night, wrecked, got the call on the Saturday morning, look, we need you to pull you in the squad because there's been a few injuries, illness. He's not in the squad, they're playing Partick Thistle at Thistle. Big donkey, bang, scores a header, runs to United fans. It's all the guys that were in the pub the night before.
Well, he's some man.
There are some players who can do it, Ruffy, but it's not. The game has changed dramatically. There are still some, undoubtedly, who'll be able to do it. But I mean, Neil mentioned Paul McGrath. Paul McGrath was lucky that they had some managers who actually said, "Look, when you don't need to train as mad as everybody else, you can come and go because he was such a good player." Robson, actually, to be fair to him, could absolutely hammer it and then train like a demon as well.
I think the notorious bunch with the Republic Island squad, and that included McGrath and all them, and I think Norman Whiteside with the Northern Ireland, he gets a bit of a reputation as well. So no, I think as long as you do it, and no before a game. I can't believe that 2 nights before a game.
Well, Norman Whiteside blew him.
Steady, Ruffy. I've read your second autobiography that hasn't been printed yet.
I'm quite happy with him going back to the hotel room. I can go with that one.
A night me and Ruffy did down at Stranraer last year. Beautiful night, wasn't it? The scenery was stunning. It was a lovely late spring, early summer evening when we drove down that lovely road. But big Kevin Kyle was on with us. He's the local boy, and Colin Calderwood, another local guy. They were on, right. It was a smashing wee night. But we'd had Big Kevin on the radio a few weeks earlier, and I was praying that when he got up on his feet, he would tell one particular story, which was a cracker. And Ruffy just reminded me there, talking about drinking and all that. It was when Kevin at some point got in tow with Norman Whiteside, and maybe thought that he could match him drink for drink, and all that. The drink was absolutely flowing, right? And then at one point, they were doing the wee bit of bragging rights and all that, and Norman Whiteside, he says to me, he says, Kevin, he said, would you any idea who was the second youngest player to feature at a World Cup finals? And Kevin says, well, I think you've got it. Was it you, Norman, you know? He says, no. He said, I was first, Pele was second. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was 1982 actually, Tom. He was a 16-year-old. What a player he was too.
What's the goal we always remember with Norman Whiteside?
Whiteside.
Aye, cutting in, and then swerving.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you were going to say is the goal that he in that game. Do you remember who scored it against Spain? I'm going to give who scored the goal? That's
Gary Armstrong.
Right, who was the goalkeeper for Spain?
Canada.
Oh, well, happy with you, Ruffy. Well done, son, eh? You can't beat a bit of knowledge. Excellent. Okay, so we've moved from Stuart Kettlewell, Manager of the Month. 3 games to look forward to tomorrow night. The Scottish Premiership will be there. Of course, here's what's on offer. We'll give you our predictions as well. Celtic against Hearts, Hibs against Rangers, and Livingston against Dundee United. So 3 mouth-watering games for us to look forward to. I mentioned to you, Ruffy, it's a 100 games in charge for Ange Postecoglou. How many of those do you think he's won? Before I show you the stats.
Does this include European games?
This is, everything. This is his 100. This is 100.
Well, I know he's lost about 11 European games.
Oh, right. Right.
So I would, out of the 100, I would say he's won 71.
Not a bad shout, Ruffy, actually. 73. Here's the stats on his games in charge. 99, 73, games drawn 10, lost 16, goals scored 250, 3 trophies won, and of those games that he's lost, 5 were domestic and 11 in Europe.
So he's lost 11 out of 16 when it comes to, that's where he needs to get his finger out, obviously.
Yeah.
It's one thing, because they've got the money that clubs could only dream of.
Yep.
And it's one thing, beating St Mirren 5-1, and then going into Europe. They need that bit of progression, because the money's incredible.
Well, I think that's what he's. Really intent on doing, Ruffy. I was with him and a few other players last week, at the tail end of last week, and I think that's really his driving force, to try and get a team that's capable of maybe getting out of the group stage.
Yeah, I think everybody remembers the Real Madrid game and the performance they put in, but I think deep down, I think he feels there was a wee bit of criticism from certain people. They'd failed miserably, obviously been bumped into the group and getting knocked out of the Europa, so I've got a funny feeling like most managers would want to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why he stayed another year, and you can see the transition in the team that was there in Europe last year. So no, I think he's expecting a better performance this time.
You're the perfect person to speak to on this, because am I right in thinking that was it the 3 foreigner rule when you were playing then? So the expectation, trying to get 3 good foreign players in among the Scottish-based players and trying to get as far as you possibly could in Europe. And I would hazard a guess at suggesting that maybe David Murray at that point was throwing the kitchen sink at it to try and get Rangers to win the European Cup.
I think that was a bit later.
Were you earlier again?
Well, no, the most successful or closest Rangers ever got was the 3 foreigner rule, and it was the vast majority of the team was Scottish.
Yeah.
I think maybe in later years David Murray threw more money at it to bring more foreign players to try and win European silverware, and didn't get any closer.
Yeah.
But that I think that was a later period. But yeah, I mean, ultimately from Postecoglou's point of view, it's pretty difficult to get out of the group because Celtic play in a certain way. There's not really any pragmatic approach. They play the same way all the time, and that was a criticism Brendan Rodgers received when they lost to PSG in a heavy manner. Walter Smith was different. He had a pragmatic approach, and he would stick 5-4-1 against Manchester United and get a draw, and take a point. And in some ways, you know, if Van Bronckhorst, for example, had approached the Ajax away game like that and taken a point away, maybe the tone of that campaign would have been a bit different.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. It's difficult for Rangers and Celtic to progress because, you know, domestically they're ahead of the game. In Europe, they're not.
Yeah.
You know what, Peter? It's almost as if they should use. It's easy for me to say because I don't support Celtic or Rangers, but it's almost like maybe Celtic should look at the Champions League as almost the European pre-season. And think, you know what? Let's get in a good Champions League group. Let's get some right blockbuster box office names in there. Make as much money as we can for that, and then when we drop, you know, inevitably into the Europa League, let's try and make an impact in that. But don't, as they did, was it last year, go down again and get into the conference thing, you know. I mean, I think the Europa League, because Neil's absolutely spot on, we all know they've got bundles more cash than the clubs in Scotland, but they've got a fraction of what the proper big European teams have got. So if they pitched it just right, use the Champions League to get in plenty of money, and if they make inroads, treat it as a bonus, a no-lose situation. But when they get into that Europa League, that's where they've got to really make an impact. And they don't need reminding that Rangers made that very impact, you know, just 2 short years ago.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. But having spoken to him, that his desire is to try and get a team capable of, yes, impressing the way they did against those teams last season, but getting that final third, that cutting edge, that goal, that win that gets them out of the group to a knockout stage. I think that would be success for him, Ruffy.
I think it would be, but you know, I think he's got to change his attitude towards European football. I think I can't remember the game now. They were away from home and they were 2-0 up.
Yeah, Leipzig.
And they still it was one.
Oh, it was the Spanish one.
Yeah. And even at 2-0 up, they went hell for leather.
Real Betis.
Betis,
And you sometimes, and I mean, I'm not saying he's going to do it, but at 2-0, you've got to be disciplined in another way to say, right, this game looks as if it's won. Let's chop and seal it up and see the game out. Yeah. But he doesn't do that. And the good thing about that is the Celtic fans have bought into that. They're bought into it. They're not really bothered if they get beat 4 or 5-1, as long as they give it a good show and they score goals and they entertain. So he's won them over that way as well.
But you know what? Ahead of his 100th game, I think fans right throughout Scotland should congratulate the guy because he's the great impact in Scottish football. And the bottom line is, if you were in the car, you were driving, the games had just finished, let's say, and you arrived home, if you were just about to go out the car and they said, oh, we can now go and hear post-match comments from Ange Postecoglou, you don't go out the car, you wait and listen to the guy, because he's always good value, you know. So for that reason alone, I would say well done to him. And what I would love to know, now you've got the facts in front of you, which clubs are in the Hall of Fame, if you like. Then you said that they'd lost 5 domestic games, so how many teams domestically have beat them and who are they?
Well, I would think St Mirren Rangers. Rangers beat them domestically in the Cup semi-final.
Anything else then? It's a good question, isn't it?
It is a good question, actually. Of the 5 teams that have beaten them, certainly I think last year.
Well, it was his first season. It was his opening 3 or 4 games.
That's right.
The sticky spell, wasn't it? So.
Hearts is one that they can brag about. Yeah, and then after that, you're actually saying to yourself, well, Hearts, St Mirren, Rangers. And then it's 2 others. I'm sure somebody...
Is it 2 others? Because if they've lost 5, had Rangers done it twice?
Yeah, possibly. Livingston.
Livingston.
Is a good... Hugh Scott. Hugh, well done. Livingston is a good shout, actually. What about the next 100 games? Somebody asked him if if he's likely to see the next 100 games with Celtic.
It's no manager lives in isolation. We all have... You know, we all work with people. We all have organisations we work for, so it's never, there's no manager that will sit down and say, well, I will be here. It's not our decision sometimes, mate. So that's why I consistently have always said that I don't think about those kind of things. What I think about is my responsibility at the moment.
Yeah, I think everybody was just fishing to see if he had any plans to leave. Ruffy, do you think you'll see the next 100 games out?
I think he will.
Yeah,
you know, I think he seems. I'm not like going by interviews and that. He seems in a very happy place, and why wouldn't you be? You know, you've got 60,000 supporters. They're all right behind you. You know, you're winning most weeks. and everything's rosy. It must be great getting into training. It must be great, everybody patting on your back. And, you know, and then we say, oh, what happens if you move to England or something like that? What would you miss?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well...
Where did you go after Rangers now?
Sion, Switzerland.
Right. And how did you, when you left, you know, was there any regret or was there a big, massive difference for when you...
No, there was no regret because, again, what I was going to say about Postecoglou, I think some people, and sometimes there's a limited shelf life, and, you know, players like Scott Brown and Cal McGregor that play 4 times against Motherwell, year in, year out, year in, year out. I take my hat off to them because it can be so difficult going to the same venues, the same places all the time, year after year. So from my point of view, I was quite happy to change and go somewhere else and experience something different. But you know, from Postecoglou's point of view, I don't think he's in any great hurry to go anywhere at all. And if he was to be tempted, I think it would need to be something that was exceptionally juicy for him.
Yeah.
But again, I think most Rangers, Celtic managers, there's a limited shelf life before things maybe get a bit stale. From their point of view as well.
Well, Gordon Strachan always said, you know, 3 to 4 years and then your head wants to explode because, you know, we chip away at them. The whole thing, you know, as you said, it might be... I think managers tend to, especially if you're at Rangers or Celtic, you know, compartmentalise one half of the year as in let's see if we can punch above our weight in Europe, then the second half let's see if we can win silverware. If you can distance yourself from the monotony of the way the league goes, then you know that might make it more palatable. Whether that happens or not, I don't know.
I'll tell you, I was kidding on, particularly after today, sent my wee text with Stuart Kettlewell and wondering if you're saying, well, Ange got another 100 games, can Stuart finish the season at Motherwell without being headhunted?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that happened?
Yeah, let's calm your jets. you know.
By the way, I've got the answer. Last week, as you know, I put up the wee competition for the viewers after Neil's debut on the show. Who does Neil Murray look like now? Remember? Oh, yeah. And the winner was the 1982 version of Willie Nelson. I'm happy with that, Neil. And if you watch the video when he was high in the charts that year with All Is On My Mind, you don't need to give him a guitar to do that's his double.
Well, I'm happy with that, Neil, because we had a few entries as well. Claudia Rogers with a beard and moustache. You know what I mean? There's all sorts of things that came through. The guy from Bon Jovi, you name it. But I'm delighted. Willie Nelson's all right, Ruffy. I'm happy with that.
Willie Nelson's a topper.
Incidentally, can you sing?
That's
a staff night out. There you are.
There's a certain person we used to have, if you've been asked that question, the guitar would have been...
Absolutely. Funnily, I just brought it with me, you know.
Who was it we had on sang as a song?
It was a guy from Morton, and he sang I think he sang...
Right, Neil, just look this way. It's for the winner. It's only fair.
Okay.
You don't need to give him a T-shirt or anything.
Absolutely. It was a boy from Morton. He was an English striker, I think, for them, and he wanted to sing. I think he sang a Neil Young song.
Is that the one from Newcastle?
Samuels or something like that was his name, I think. I might be wrong, but he could hold a tune. I mean, and he was blonde. He was a good-looking boy as well. So you know, when you can sing and play the guitar and you're good-looking and you're blonde hair, hello.
Yeah.
Peter Wellison?
No, it was definitely...
I'll tell you, if you wanted a wee musical special, I'm thinking back to the guys that we have known between telly and radio who were very good. James McKinstry, who used to be in the books at Partick Thistle, was very good. Jim O'Brien.
Jim O'Brien sang for us at the PFA Awards.
So he did?
I got him there.
Right.
See if you say Stephen Thompson, just get off the show. You know, cause
Tomo?
No.
Right.
When I was at Dun United, Tomo did play the guitar.
Yeah, I know he did actually. You know, he likes his...
There's quite a few, you know.
He's actually quite switched on, Tomo, for his music.
I know he is. He's good.
Okay, 11 consecutive wins since that 2-2 draw against Rangers for Ange Postecoglou. 8 more wins, we reckon, and Celtic can win the league, Ruffy, if Rangers win all their games, and then of course if they lose the game at Celtic Park in the Old Firm game in the 8th of April, I think it is, then I think we are looking at a situation where it will be 8 wins. The second game after the split is when they can win it.
Well, I think the weekend there is a perfect example. Everybody's waiting to see if anybody's going to take 3 points off them. And if you were a Rangers supporter watching the St Mirren game, when they went down to 1-0, you know, I know it was a bit early on, but if you're a Rangers supporter, you're saying, oh, maybe this is the game. They've already beat them 2-0 before.
Yeah.
They've got a penalty early on, blah, blah, blah. But again, circumstances changed in the second half and they just run over the top of them. So you're sitting really wondering, who is it going to be? Now, Hearts are one of the ones that if it was at Tynecastle, you would say, like, this could be one. And I'm saying with Rangers as well.
Yeah.
I think Aberdeen, Hibs and Hearts are the three teams that I'd be looking at if Rangers or Celtic were going to drop points.
Well, they thought that about Rangers at Tynecastle, and they ran right over the top of them. And whether Hearts can do it at Celtic Park is another matter, but Robbie Nielsen has highlighted the qualities they will need to show to defeat Ange Postecoglou's side.
When you play against Celtic, the areas that they try and utilise, shall we say, so you have to try and block them off as much as you can. The difficulty is always trying to get the pressure higher up the pitch against them, because technically they've got some very good players, so we have to be brave in their position first and foremost, and then try and shut off the areas that they try and play.
Well, they've got two games, one in the league, one in the cup, Ruffy. The game that I saw at Tynecastle earlier in the season was brilliant. Lawrence Shanklin scored a hat-trick. He was banging the goals in. There was all sorts of contention with VAR, if you remember, Neil, and Celtic still won it 4-3.
I think that's a classic example at Celtic. They just keep on going, they keep on fighting to the end to get themselves over the winning line, and they've just got that extra bit of quality. It makes a difference. If anyone takes points off Celtic, you have to have a disciplined performance, maybe a bit of luck in the day, and a little bit of magic.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it all. I often wonder sometimes, in previous games before, Tam, if you were playing against a really good Rangers side or a really good Celtic side, some teams would look and say, all right, let's noise them up, let's put the boot in and really, really give it to them. But it needs a wee bit more these days.
Gone up those days. I can even remember Motherwell way back in the day under Tommy McLean. If you were playing against Rangers or Celtic, you would maybe sometimes notice a wee bit more aggression in the team. But the bottom line is, you're never going to get away with that sort of stuff these days. Who
was the dirtiest side you ever faced?
Partick Thistle.
They
just had real proper men that played. They were really aggressive players and physical. John Lambie as a manager, I'm sure, would demand that from the players that go out and give their all, especially against Rangers and Celtic, Glasgow Derby. And they just a real physical approach to the game. It's difficult. They were difficult to play against.
You didn't expect that, Ruffy, did you?
No, what year are we talking about there?
90s, early 90s.
90s, I'm just trying to think who would all be there.
Oh, Alan Dinny, Chick Charnley, Willie Jameson.
There you go. You just picked three there.
Yeah, there you are, that's why.
I would imagine Lambie would have them wired up.
See, that game that you're talking about, Shanklin getting a hat-trick, that kind of sums up Celtic for me. Between that game and the most recent game, you got a guy that scores a hat-trick against Celtic, but Celtic still come out winners, right? And then the weekend there, you get St Mirren going a goal up against Celtic. Now, I must say, I think if it was St Mirren, it'd maybe going a goal up in Rangers in that scenario. I don't think there's a guarantee Rangers would have come back maybe and scored 5, this current Rangers team. So that's where they're miles ahead. And I think any Rangers fan who would still insist, and we all support our teams, but any Rangers fan who would say, no, we've still got a chance in the league, take your money to the bookies then, and it'll be a life-changing experience if Rangers do win the league, because you couldn't get a bet on Celtic now.
Yeah, well, you might get a bet on this game at Easter Road, because certainly it's been, not for me, it's been billed as one of those games where there might be a banana skin here, and one of those times where Rangers are going to slip up, because can Rangers win every game from now until the end of the season and hope Celtic somehow produce a collapse? Not according to Tam. Some people are thinking Hibs, are in this zone where they could cause Rangers problems. Michael Beale was certainly complimentary about them yesterday.
But no, I don't know him very well. He's obviously been a manager for a long time as a young man, and it looked like a difficult job a few weeks ago. But certainly coming out of the transfer, they're probably living in their strongest moment of the season, and he's finally putting his stamp on the team. Maybe if you was to ask him.
So they're in their strongest moment of the season. He's certainly, I think he's starting to really win the fans over, Ruffy.
Yeah, they're on a wee run just now, but you've got to look at who they're on a wee run against. You know, I mean, Hearts beat them quite comfortably. You know, they're beating everybody else in the bottom half. And we've already talked about the standard of football in the league. Unfortunately, this year there's no any team, you know, threatening anywhere. So, no, credit to Hibs for where they were and where they are now. They'll go into the game with confidence, and confidence is always a good thing. But I still think Rangers have got a wee bit more quality in there, and I think the Rangers are still, as Tam's saying, no, they can't turn it round, but when you're a player, you've got to believe you can. So they've got to go out in every game and really battle right to the end.
It's only one defeat in 8, you know, and undefeated in the last 5, and this is off the back of losing McGeady, you know, with his injury as well.
I think Hibs have always had good players, and I think they're a confidence team, as Ruffy said. You know, I've seen them having moments where they've really lacked confidence. You know, before the injury, Kevin Nisbet's injury, he really lacked confidence.
Yeah.
Now he's come back, he's got confidence in the team scoring goals. Yuan makes a difference to them. But throughout the team, they've got the goalkeepers, an excellent goalkeeper, experienced player. And I think, you know, they've got good quality players around the pitch. And I think it just needed a little bit of confidence to go on a run. And that's effectively built their season.
Yeah, Lee Johnson himself certainly would like to make a huge statement by defeating Rangers. Whether they can do that or not, only time will tell, but certainly he's got his players geared up to it. Can they live up to the hype? Here's what the manager had to say.
It would be huge, because it would be a statement to ourselves. You know, it's not like we're looking to go and make big statements to the league, because we're thinking game by game, but you know, we have to start moving closer to these teams, and this is our next opportunity to prove that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, so if they're heading in the right direction, if they win that game, then people will really start to sit up and take notice about what they're doing. But they've only had one win in their last 18 against Rangers.
Yeah, but it was always a tasty fixture, and for me it's just a shame that it's been blanked by telly. That's one that, you know, that's unmissable, even for the neutral. You know, you would always tune into a match like that, but
what? You love your games on the telly, don't you?
I do, in particular Scottish games. I mean, I must be I think I'm the only guy in Scotland that never watched the Liverpool Man United game, you know, but to see it on Match of the Day 2 at night, that was fine for me, you know. Actually, although I went a wee bit further, you'll be proud of me, Peter, that I realised that Sky Sports themselves, they show a half hour of edited highlights at midnight after a game like that, so I recorded that and that was fine. But no, I mean, look at that for a fixture. That's one of the great ones in Scottish football, you know.
I like it, Ruffy, not sometimes on the telly, so that the fans get out there and go to the game. And you could still buy tickets for this in the Hibs end.
Yeah, but as Tam says, you're a neutral, you're not going to go. No, but you still want a bit of it. You still want
stuff, Tam. I'm just talking about punters getting out to the game.
Right, wait a minute. If I had to go out to that game tonight, you're in the M8, think of the time tomorrow night, you're going out to the game, you're sitting in the traffic, you're going to Edinburgh, you think, where do I park?
Tam, welcome to the life of a reporter. That's what you do, you go to these games.
That's why, what I would say in the back of that, when I paint that nightmare scenario, I mean, I always see them, when I duke out of the radio on a Saturday from Motherwell at home, I'm driving along the M8 between Glasgow and Motherwell, and if Rangers are at home, you see all that traffic right away, way beyond Berlin and all that, and it's all queued up, and these guys, good on them, support their team, they do it every other week, you know.
Here's a good thing for you.
What?
Here's a great thing for you.
You can off right there, by the way. I wish this city wasn't that colour.
What you should do, give yourself enough time, right?
Right.
Easter Road, perfect thing for it, right? Hibs Hearts, Edinburgh Derby.
Oh, I'd love to see that game.
Get yourself a ticket, right? And this is what you do. Let's just say it's an evening kick-off, okay? I'll just say it's an evening kick-off. Get through a good 3-4 hours beforehand. Nip over to Giuliano's across from the Playhouse.
Right, I know exactly where they are.
Tell them I sent you. Sit down in there, have a beautiful meal. You're in no real rush. You've parked your car in a safe place in Falkirk, because Edinburgh is the worst place in the world to actually. And then what you do is you saunter along that road. You have a wee look up to your right. You can see the castle. You can see the monuments. And then down Easter Road. Sign a few autographs, because undoubtedly, all right, Tam, brilliant to see you.
That's how you believe the people of Edinburgh speak. The Hibs and the Hearts fans, was that right?
And then you saunter down there, you get into the game, and you enjoy a Edinburgh derby.
Giuliano's, what after that big drive in M8, what for my shoulders and all, I was saying I needed to go for a massage somewhere.
When you go to the Bermuda Triangle. And you used to live along the road from it. Sorry. But anyway, I think the legislation's actually allowed them to open, so you're fine.
Right.
Look at Ruffy nodding his head.
But just run the city, right? What is the game that you would go to as a neutral perspective? It's getting on to do with your own clubs and the one fixture, first up in the UK and then the world that you would love to go and see. What would it be, Ruffy? A game that you've never been to that you would love to see live?
What, Scotland?
Aye.
Well, if it wasn't
what UK?
That's all it would be.
I mean, have you been to Merseyside derby?
Yeah.
Right. Manchester derby?
Yeah.
Right.
I can't think of one in Britain. I've not been.
Right. What about abroad then?
Abroad, well, I know what Peter's going to say, so I'll leave Peter the South American one.
Yeah.
Right.
Milan derby for me would be great.
Right. Neil?
Well, I've been to a Milan derby.
Same here.
And it was, what a game it was. It was 3-2, Adriano last minute.
Right.
Oh, that's a good game.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. The guy I was with said, we've got to be the stadium at 3 o'clock, so it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, 7:30.
Oh, yeah.
4 hours wandering the streets of Milan.
And it's not a great city for, it's not, everybody says, Milan, love to go there, it's not a great city. They've got Il Duomo and the shopping centre and that's it.
But what about you? You've done certainly in Scotland, you've done all the biggies.
I've done all the biggies. I've done all the biggies in England.
So what would it be?
The Milan derby I was in was 90,000. The Brazilian Ronaldo was playing in it. He was absolutely outstanding. There was crackers going off that were like the 1 o'clock gun. Your bottle had crashed every time because you thought somebody's get shot in here. But I would like to see River Plate Boca Juniors. That would be, but I'd need an armoured car, 2 snipers and a submachine gunner apparently. But
what's the mad one in Turkey that they do?
Galatasaray against
really fiery
Fenerbahce, is it, Ruffy? Yeah.
Some of very simple taste. I would love an Edinburgh derby. Yeah. I would love, and again, everybody talks about the atmosphere, so I'd probably want to see that one at Tynecastle. And then another one, I came a wee bit close years ago when I was with the Evening Times. They had an idea about me doing a piece, going to an Old Firm game with 2 tickets and having a half in each half kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the different chants, the different atmosphere, and I never did it. So I would never miss one of them. You get a lot of folk that are Rangers and Celtic. No, I've always been entitled to have a wee laugh and a joke about Rangers and Celtic, but when I think about it, they've, even if I think about it in my career, they provide you with so much stuff. Peter, if you're involved in this game, it's, Rangers and Celtic are a huge part. So I would love to go and see, particularly a big one, maybe a cup quarter-final, semi-final, no, quarter-final. I'd want it Parkhead or Ibrox, or a league decider or something. I think it'd be amazing.
It need to be a cup game because obviously you get the 2 sets of fans a nice equal.
Oh yeah, aye.
Because obviously the both boards are still going through their daft phase.
In the past, I think Partizan Belgrade Red Star was a bit.
Oh, that would have been a tidy one as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And is there no mad one that did Bobby Madden do? What's the one out in the kind of maybe Saudi Arabia, is it?
Yeah, there was one there as well, but I'm not sure.
Crazy fixture there.
Yeah, there is another one that's it's dicey for it, but
Bobby Madden did it.
I really would like to go and see the South American one, Ruffy, and then just helicopter in, boom, into a nice seat, then helicopter out again, just for safety reasons.
The Hibs Rangers game's not as feisty as that Graham Souness one, because that was a bit mental.
Yeah, is this the one where he dragged his studs down George McCluskey's? Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
He was the only man that didn't get involved, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. The only man who had a yellow card already.
What was only an excuse line at the time? The great line. It was it must have been, I think it was Tony Roper kind of doing a wee Ruffy voice, and Ruffy saying, "Oh, I wanted to get involved, but as usual I was too slow coming off my line."
Leeds United, I just read something, Leeds United and Burnley sniffing around Ryan Kent. I think we're about to get that for Kent and Morelos and a lot of players now, just because they're out of contract, especially the ones that are out of contract, Neil.
Yeah, and I think those clubs are probably appropriate for Ryan Kent. I won't hit the top half of the Premiership.
Yeah.
You're talking.
You think that's his level?
Yeah. I mean, he's been linked with Leeds consistently for a good number of years, so that's never really gone away. And Burnley seem to be runaway leaders. And again, a Premiership club next year, it'd be a good fit for him, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Livingston Dundee United's the other match. Boy, do Livingston need a win, and so do Dundee United for obvious reasons because they're at the foot of the table. But Livingston have been on a bad run of late, and they're looking for 3 points. One thing that David Martindale was talking about that's starting to creep into our game, Ruffy, is certainly fans coming in and creating absolute mayhem with flares and all various objects that can cause problems inside a ground.
Again, you'll go back to it, fans will be complaining about having to queue to get in football grounds if everybody's kind of getting a stop and search type thing, and really that's what we're going to hear. But it's going to come down to a wee bit of education, and it's part of football that you don't like. I do understand the emotion, the passion of fans, but throwing flares in the parks, I don't think it's great for anybody, players, surfaces, anybody.
Yeah, it's not good in an AstroTurf patch because it can actually burn the pitch. But nevertheless, it's something that I think clubs are turning a blind eye to it at times, because the amount of flares you see in the grounds, smoke at the start of the game, you're wondering who's kicking off, and then of course off go the crackers.
Somebody had a cannon to launch one. See that photo in the papers? It was a big game recently. I'm not going to say what club I think it was or what set of fans because I may be wrong, but there was a photo in the papers and it was like a launcher. And you think, how do you get? You can't get a bottle of water into the football.
Mental, isn't it?
I have to say though, I've got a slightly different opinion, because as you youngsters watching games abroad, you used to see all the flares, the smoke before the games. Loved it. And Sion was the same.
Yeah.
The fans had all the flares. Okay, the home fans, they wouldn't really throw them on the pitch. Occasionally come on the pitch, but you know, it was all tied up. It was a good atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that part of it, but you know,
There's throwing stuff at players, at corners, and anybody.
If there's a way to misbehave, it happens in this country. You know,
I would like to think, and I think the police are criticised quite a lot for not actually doing something at the moment.
Right.
You know, I do believe they are doing things after the moment. You know, because they've got the CCTV. I mean, I don't know if have you ever been in the security room at Motherwell?
No.
Well, I've been in the one at Partick Thistle. There's so many cameras.
Is this for your own safety?
No. There's so many cameras. If you can't catch somebody in this modern day, they zoom in. So you would like to think the police do identify somebody and they go in, chap his door maybe, and then something happens. Because you're right, the clubs aren't getting a good reputation of them doing something. So let's hope the police are doing
and you
something.
know what? It will be, nothing might happen until somebody does get hurt, and that's why that came back into my mind, the Jim Goodwin incident last week when he get hit with a coin. You know, the guy get hit with a coin, and any time this has happened in the past, and sadly it's been quite a lot, you always say, you know, that could have taken his eye out.
Yeah.
And it's as if we're waiting until an incident does take somebody's eye out, and then we'll do something about it. So
the thing about it as well, Tom, if you go to the grounds, you know where it's going to happen.
Exactly.
If you go to Easter Road, you know it's going to be up in that corner. If you were to go to Motherwell, it's going to be down the corner. If you go to Ross County, it's going to be... So the police actually know where the trouble's going to happen.
Let's not discount the fact that they could, and they do sometimes, quickly identify people. I mean, the police are not completely and utterly inept at this. They do identify some people. Maybe we don't hear about it unless it's a really extreme case, and then you see them in court and then they're highlighted. But
and you know what, Peter, nobody likes a grass, right? They always say that, but I think sometimes a bit of self-policing, the fellow fans say that's a nonsense, and see, we'd have thought that was a real nonsense. Even the abuse that Jim Goodwin was getting for the Aberdeen fans the other night, we knew it was going to happen, right? But suddenly I'd have thought, why are the Aberdeen fans not at least having a wee shout at the players? You know, here are these players, they're all cheering and celebrating when the boy Duke's doing the wee fancy to score a goal and all.
Yeah.
It was the guys that let them down. It was the guys that humiliated the fans, embarrassed the club down at Darvel, and with they 2 games when they lost 11 goals in Edinburgh, you know, it wasn't just Jim Goodwin.
Yeah.
So if you're not even going to have a wee bit of criticism towards they guys, don't start throwing missiles at the manager. I thought it was absolutely shocking.
Yeah, there you are. He's on his high horse. He's got the old microphone out there, and don't forget, you'll be looking for your vote when the elections come around. Tam Cowan, you've been on good form today, ranting and raving, by the way.
Would you had a go at the boy with a lodger?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyway, Livingston against Dundee United, and well played to Dundee United. I think Jim Goodwin mentioned that the Aberdeen have contacted them and said, look, we're sorry about that, they've apologised, and that doesn't make it any better.
Alan Burrows will sort it.
Absolutely. Chris Wilder was being linked with the Aberdeen job. That's now gone because Watford have sacked Slaven Bilic, and he's going to take it on to the end of the season. So suddenly it opens up again. And I still think, in the back of my mind, Neil, I still think Neil Lennon they're waiting.
I totally agree. I saw the link with Chris Wilder, and to be honest, I didn't really believe it, because I think he's more focused on a top job in England than in Aberdeen, financially and even for his own career advancement, should we say. But yeah, I think Aberdeen haven't made an appointment. Neil Lennon's still available. As I think it was Ruffy said, maybe for tax purposes, he's got a certain period to wait out. And then once that becomes live, who knows? But yeah, I mean, he'd be a great fit. He demands good performances from the players. He would certainly lift the place, I'm sure, and get a lot from the players.
Yeah. Okay, a couple of things before we quickly go. UEFA is going to refund all the Liverpool fans for the debacle of Paris, and rightly so as well. I think it's something like, just under 20,000 Liverpool fans will get a refund on the tickets that they paid for. It was a very scary period again that Liverpool fans had to go through, and again, I don't think UEFA covered themselves in glory, Ruffy.
No, I think in the light of Hillsborough, I think the Liverpool supporters were trying to move on, and then something like that happens. It could have been another one, the charging the gates and no opening the gates and all that carry on. Yeah, quite rightly so. Yeah, what's the best deal you've ever signed for a boot deal? Did you get a boot deal when you were that age? Deodora? Yeah, Deodora. Not a bad deal.
Great, good deal, but good merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack Grealish, £10 million a year, 5 years, Puma. Nice work if you can get it.
I think there was a big switch away from, in the past, a lot of the kit manufacturers or boot manufacturers would spread the love evenly, and now they just focus on the top players and the icons that the kids will follow on social media or other outlets.
Absolutely. Chelsea against Dortmund. Can Graham Potter turn it around? He thinks he can.
The position we're in, you should always welcome the pressure, because it means you're in a fantastic situation, which is to compete for the last 8 of the Champions League. It's a wonderful competition. It's going to be a special night. It was a special occasion in Dortmund, and I'm sure it'll be the same at Stamford Bridge tomorrow.
Okay, he's got to do it. Unfortunately, Dortmund have won 10 games in a row and they're heading for him, Ruffy. It's 1-0 up. Who's winning it?
Yeah,
briefly.
I think Chelsea can turn it. I really do.
I believe so as well. I believe that's the case. They're not going through a great run of form at the minute. Dortmund are in good form, but home advantage, it's a different competition away from the league form. So, yeah, I think they'll go over the line.
Okay, tomorrow night, Bayern, PSG or Tottenham, Milan. Which one are you watching?
Need to see what films are on Netflix.
Yeah.
No, I would obviously go for Tottenham. You'd at least watch the English team.
Okay, Morton against Ayr in the Championship tonight. The Tun can leapfrog Thistle if they get the win.
Great league.
Yeah.
And I must say as well, Doug Emery there, they were 2-0 down to Queen's Park at the weekend, and they came back. And when I bumped into the legend that is, we're turning this into the Andy Ritchie show, you need to come back on.
Yeah.
But when I did bump into him at the Ayr races week before last, he was saying that he had heard, and he's a club ambassador, and there's a lot of fans will talk to him, that a few folk have been watching the progress of Dougie Emery. So, I think he's done really, really well there. And I must say, either of those clubs I'd love to see up in the top flight. There's proper, two great football teams.
Who wins?
That's going to be 3-1 to Morton.
Okay, Morton 2-1.
Yeah, I think Morton are on a wee run now.
Morton, okay. Dunfermline, Falkirk, 9,200 fans, 7,000 Pars fans tonight. It's going to be absolutely magnificent. If Dunfermline win, James McPake's side will go 8 points clear with only 9 remaining.
Yeah, I think the two of them are in their own league for a start. To have that kind of crowd, the likes of Livingston and Ross County can't compete with they two, so the sooner they get back up, the better.
Yeah, okay. Just tell me who wins.
Where's it at?
Dunfermline.
Dunfermline.
Yeah, okay.
Draw.
Just to make the league really, really taste, I'll go 0-1.
Okay, Dumbarton, Stirling Albion. The men from the Rock can actually go 8 points clear.
Stirling Albion. I saw something on, I don't know what I seen it on, but the wee boy scored for the halfway line.
Yeah.
Was that still in Albion?
Yeah.
Fantastic, what a strike.
Belter on the half volley.
Yeah, half volley it was.
Yeah. By the way, just out of curiosity, stop giving us long-winded stuff. Who's winning it, Dumbarton or Stirling?
Dumbarton.
That finishes, spoiler alert, 3-0 to Dumbarton.
Okay, the year for Dunfermline for the answer to the quiz, it was 1968. They defeated Hearts by 3-1 in the final. So it was the 60s. You were thinking Jock Stein, but then it was later on. Anyway, tomorrow we'll give you another chance to look and get involved in the competition, a chance to win that Arthur Boric hoodie and the Legia Warsaw pennant. All the way through to the summer, we're giving you the opportunity to win some great prizes. Thanks to Neil, great to have him on the Tuesday. Thanks to Tam, as ever, top drawer, and to Ruffy. Hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel if you can. Download the app and you'll get all the breaking football stories. From myself, Peter Martin, thank you for watching.